Part 4. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 31. To be honest, the pain of this reorganization is not very strong and can be almost ignored compared to before. However, Wang Ling feels even more uncomfortable than before, almost miserable. Just like a body wound growing flesh over a large area, Wang Ling's body felt an extremely itchy feeling in his bones. Wang Ling groaned and scratched his body vigorously, but after all, it was inside the body. This kind of scratching would be useless in the end. Itchy, itchy. Uncle hey, why is this happening? Wang Ling couldn't stand it anymore. He couldn't scratch the inside of his body, so he simply jumped up, avoiding his brain, and his whole body lay flat on the ground. This sudden tremor finally made his body feel better. However, this is not over yet. The reorganization is still going on. Wang Ling still feels itchy in his body, forcing Wang Ling to jump up and fall down again and again. He uses this counter-shock force to stop it. Itch. After falling 5 or 6 times in a row, the tissues in Wang Ling's body were finally reorganized, and the itching was finally over. The remaining enhancer liquid, like a tonic, gradually penetrated into Wang Ling's body, quickly repairing Wang Ling's physical fatigue. Wang Ling was originally dizzy and complaining from the torment of this strengthening agent, but now, he felt waves of pleasure again, and the previous fatigue gradually disappeared. At this time, Uncle Hay finally smiled. "Congratulations, kid, the strengthening was successful." Hearing Uncle Hay's voice, Wang Ling recovered from the feeling of pleasure. As soon as he slapped the ground, his body bounced up as if it was equipped with a spring. After standing firm, Wang Ling stretched out his hands to look at them, and tentatively clenched his fists, which seemed to be full of strength. Then he shook his arms and kicked his legs, feeling as if there was endless strength in his body. This feeling made Wang Ling couldn't help but laugh exaggeratedly. "How are you, boy, does this feel good?" Uncle Hay asked with a smile. Wang Ling controlled his emotions, nodded and said, "Yes, it's very pleasant. I obviously feel that my body's strength has increased a lot compared to before." Uncle Hay added, "It's not just strength that increases. What the enhancer strengthens is your overall quality, endurance, flexibility, recovery ability, etc. are also strengthened. Boy, I told you a long time ago, however, I asked you to redeem the enhancers early, and look at your appearance before, it's almost as if I'm harming you." "Come on, Uncle Hay, why does your tone sound like that of my mother?" Wang Ling was a little helpless, and after stopping the activity, he said, "But the price of this enhancer is too high, it just tormented me to death." "Like?" Uncle Hay shook his head and said, "There is no such thing as strengthening for no reason. You have to pay some price. If you can't bear this kind of pain, then you are not qualified to use strengthening agents, let alone become a strong man." Wang Ling couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. "Okay, Uncle Hay, you are an artificial intelligence brain, why do you always talk in the same way?" Uncle Hay was speechless. Now, Wang Ling successfully exchanged and used the enhancer, and his physical fitness has made a qualitative leap. However, he did not rush to the red alert world to test. Instead, he returned to the real world and wanted to rest for a day according to his original work and rest habits. The strengthening period sounds complicated, but in fact it does not take very long. In addition, the time flow rate in the different dimensional system is 10 times that of the real world. Wang Ling only lasted a few minutes in reality this time. After he returned, before he could open his eyes, he vaguely heard the voices of his roommates. "Hey, hey, hey, Wang Ling, wake up. Wake up, Wang Ling, are you having a seizure? If you can't wake him up, hold him down and I'll give him a few slaps to wake him up." After finally hearing these words, Wang Ling immediately opened his eyes. "Why are you beating me? Are you awake? Who scared me to death?" Seeing Wang Ling wake up, the three of them finally breathed a sigh of relief, and Wei Bowen explained directly, "You just lay down, and soon you started to shake, and the whole bed was trembling with it, which scared us. It's broken. I thought you were having a stroke. I was about to whip you, but I didn't expect you to wake up. Oh, what a pity." Wang Ling was speechless for a while. "This guy is still so cute." Dongfang Yuking said sarcastically, "Didn't I just give you some virus? Are you so angry that you have a stroke? Are you so petty?" Bah, Wang Ling stared back, "What a stroke? I had a nightmare, it was too scary." Although this reason was perfunctory, Dongfang Yuking and the three of them didn't know about it at all, and they were still a little doubtful. Zhang Shenke advised, "I told you, if you have nothing to do, watch less horror movies, you are so cowardly." Wang Ling didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he said a few perfunctory words before they dispersed. "I entered the red alert world twice in a row, woke up twice in a row, and fell asleep again this time, and finally there was nothing else to do." The next day, Wang Ling got up early and arrived at the rubber track on the school playground at dawn. Having just injected the booster last night, Wang Ling also wanted to test his current physical fitness. He randomly found an entry point, without any warm-up preparation, and ran at the speed of a 100-meter race. Before changing, Wang Ling could only run a few hundred meters at best by maintaining this speed, and then he would have to stop and rest for a long time. But now, Wang Ling's body seems to be tireless. He ran a full 5 kilometers on the track at the speed of a 100-meter race, but it took less than 10 minutes. After finishing the run, he only panted for a short period of time. Just rude. The prescribed time for a morning run in the red alert world is 20 minutes, but Wang Ling can now run about twice as fast as before. Wang Ling was filled with surprise when he got this result from the test. However, his test was not over yet. After resting for a while, he got down and did push-ups again. After being trained in the red alert world, Wang Ling could probably do more than 50 push-ups at one breath, or 70 or 80 if he pushed hard. But now, he was ups and downs alone on the playground, and he could do it easily. After standing up, I only took a few breaths. Comparing the changes before and after, Wang Ling was a little incredible. Afterwards, Wang Ling shut up and silently began to practice Zhengzhenkan. When he was promoted to a one-star veteran, Wang Ling already felt comfortable in Zhengzhenkan, and now he is even more popular in Zhengzhenkan. Even if the fifth instructor is standing in front of him, he is happy. Not afraid. Not only that, as his physical fitness strengthened, Wang Ling also wanted to try the martial arts moves he had seen on TV and movies before. Although it felt like a toddler in HD at first, after practicing several times in succession, he became more and more capable, becoming more and more presentable. After stopping, Wang Ling smiled and rubbed the tip of his nose. A feeling of confidence emerged spontaneously. This third stage of the competition is stable. First company, just wait and see. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 32. To put it bluntly, Red Alert World is just a simulation game created by a different dimensional system. Everything in the world is a program of the system. But these programs were so real that Wang Ling sometimes couldn't tell whether they were real or virtual. For example, Wang Ling wanted to teach the first company in the Red Alert World a lesson from the bottom of his heart, and it was not like he was treating them as a game. After the test, Wang Ling was very satisfied with the changes in his body. After taking a short rest, he bought some breakfast and returned to the dormitory. Wang Ling's life in the real world can be said to be relatively monotonous. After the three friends woke up, they started playing games together. After lunch, they went back to the dormitory to rest for a while, and then asked Sun Tongtong to go out to play together. In the evening, I went to a snack bar for dinner, and after returning to the dormitory, I started playing games again. The day passed by quietly like this. But for Wang Ling, night is just the beginning of his wonderful life. After playing games for a period of time with his 3 unreliable roommates, Wang Ling used the excuse that he was a little tired and lay down on the bed early. Instead, he contacted Uncle Hay in his mind and entered the world of Red Alert. Time connected to the last time he left, Wang Ling was lying on the bed in the military camp with other comrades. According to usual thinking, most people should have fallen asleep by now. After all, the whole day's training task is really not small, and they are tired. However, there were some exceptions today. When Wang Ling came here, he found that none of his comrades in the entire camp had fallen asleep. Instead, they were muttering in groups of 2s and 3s. Wang Ling listened carefully and found out that they were still worried about tomorrow's arena match. How much better do you think the first company is than us? It's not that I feel inferior, it's that they are indeed much better than us. We may not have a good chance of winning in the arena match tomorrow. Why is there such a low chance of winning? I don't think there is a chance of winning at all. They enlisted in the army earlier than us, and their military training began much earlier than us. I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to catch up with them. That's right, in the first fight, we had nearly twice as many people as them, and we were still beaten with bruises and swollen faces. Now even with increased training, I guess we can only beat 2 of them with 3 at best. Yeah, the key thing is that every one of us has to play tomorrow. It's like taking turns to get beaten. Although the official competition is about to begin tomorrow, they don't have much confidence in their hearts. Wang Ling couldn't help but laugh after listening to it for so long. And this sound was also heard by some people around him, and soon someone asked, "Number 101, what do you think the result will be tomorrow?" This question instantly attracted the attention of the entire camp soldiers, who were all listening with open ears. Although Wang Ling was previously dubbed the worst in the entire army, his performance in the second session earned Wang Ling the respect of the entire company, and he felt like he had become the backbone of the team. Wang Ling groaned and then said, "Don't worry about the competition tomorrow, we will definitely win." After a round of physical strengthening, Wang Ling is now very confident about tomorrow's competition. But when other people heard these words, they only thought it was Wang Ling trying to comfort them. Some people sighed deeply, while others gave a wry smile. "It's so late and you're still up. Are you too energetic? Do you want to go out for a few laps?" At this time, the instructor of the 5th company appeared out of nowhere, suddenly got into the camp, and started scolding him with his hands behind his back. Everyone in the camp quickly shut up and didn't dare to answer anything. Although he was reprimanding verbally, the instructor's lips kept curling up, and he seemed to be in a good mood. After scanning back and forth several times to confirm that there was no movement, the instructor turned and left. After walking out of the tent, the instructor was still talking to himself. "This number 101 is quite confident. Tomorrow, it will all depend on your performance." In the tent, after confirming that the instructor had left, Wang Ling finally said, "Don't worry so much, it's just a fight. Even if they are a month ahead of us, how much harder can their fists be than us? How much stronger can they be than us?" Same. The others finally looked away. After that, all the topics in the camp were interrupted. The comrades were thinking about tomorrow's arena match and fell asleep unconsciously. Drip. 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 Gather in 30 seconds, don't make me say it a second time. As the familiar trumpet sounds and assembly orders came out, Wang Ling suddenly woke up from his dream. He tightened his bowstring almost instantly, got up quickly, put on his clothes, and rushed out of the tent after packing. A new day in the world of Red Alert begins. After the assembly, the entire barracks went on a routine morning run. The 5th company was still competing with the 1st company, 5 kilometers and 20 minutes. After all, there was something else to do today, so Wang Ling did not waste too much energy. He followed the large troops and ran 5 laps according to the standard time. They gathered and dispersed. After breakfast, they took a short rest. Then came the big event that the entire barracks was paying attention to. Center the arena match between the 5th Company of Recruits and the 1st Company of Recruits. After the 5th Company was assembled, the instructor stood at the front and glanced at the entire team before starting the pre-war mobilization, twice in a row, twice in a row. We have lost to the 1st Company twice in a row. Think about how we were defeated by them. Are you willing to face the scene of ridicule? I'm not willing to give in, the 5th Company yelled out immediately. The instructor continued his lecture. Do you want to get this situation back? Do you want to take revenge? Think. Okay, now, the opportunity has come, the 5th instructor shouted. Do you still remember the requirements I set for you? The 1st Company, the 5th Company roared. But just as they finished shouting, a similar roar came from the position of the 1st Company in the distance, the 5th Company. It turned out that at this time, the instructor from the 1st Company was also giving lectures. These two instructors are indeed old comrades in arms and old rivals. Even the instructions and goals given to the new recruits are so similar. When the 5th instructor heard the sound, he turned his head and looked over. It happened that the 1st instructor also looked over. The two looked at each other, and there seemed to be some electric sparks bursting out. Snort. After a few seconds of confrontation, the 5th instructor withdrew his gaze and continued his final lecture. Fight the 5th Company, now this opportunity has come. The group competition, to put it bluntly, is to provide you with a one-on-one fight. Opportunities. Don't care about winning or losing, just give me as many fists as possible to hit their faces until they are knocked down. This kind of instruction had some meaning. Wang Ling could hardly hold back his laughter after hearing it. This instructor seems to have launched this challenge just for revenge. Every extra punch he can get is just one punch, and he has never considered winning. An update notice. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 33. I won't say any more. The arena competition is about to begin. I look forward to your performance. After saying these last words, the 5th instructor's training also came to an end, and then he led the 5th Company to the training ground. The 1st Company followed closely behind. In the training ground, almost all the recruits from the barracks were gathered. As the manager of the barracks, Captain Ling Fei was also among them. When passionate men gather together, it is inevitable that some conflicts will arise between them, and fights are common in the military camp. But as it is now, it is still very rare for two companies to have a collective fight in the barracks, so people like them are naturally very interested. In the center of the training ground, the mobilized soldiers had already built a cylindrical wooden platform half a meter high and 10 meters in diameter. Captain Ling Fei's deputy, Sergeant Tian Yu, is now standing on the round platform. Under Wang Ling's induction, this sergeant was also a one-star veteran. After seeing the two protagonist companies arriving, Tian Yu started to explain, I will be the referee for this competition. The rules of the arena competition are also very simple. If you fall on the stage, you cannot get up within 10 seconds. Lose. Being kicked off the ring, lose. In the ring, no weapons can be used, and no one can be killed. In addition, any dirty tricks are not prohibited. Even if you are maimed, it can only be blamed on your inferior skills. To put it simply, this rule means that you can beat someone to death, as long as you don't really beat him to death. It was quite cruel to say. After hearing this, the 5th Company felt a little heavy in their hearts. But correspondingly, those in the 1st Company were already eager to try. The first instructor even spoke to the fifth instructor across the stage. "Fifth, do you need us to be merciful? Otherwise, if we are all beaten, you will. The fifth company can't even do daily training." Ha ha ha! The recruits of the first company immediately started laughing. Although the fifth instructor said that he had no hope of winning in the end, his momentum did not drop. "If you don't need it, you should take care of your baby bumps first. Don't let us beat you up after a long time of trouble. Humph, you damn duck, you have such a tough mouth. You guys, teach them a lesson later." The first instructor was too lazy to talk nonsense to him anymore. By now, the conflict between the two sides had gradually intensified. Sergeant Tianyu did not wait too much and directly called the number 001 of both companies. Standing in the center of the ring, looking at both sides, Sergeant Tianyu asked, "Did you all hear the rules I just mentioned?" "Heard it? Heard it? Okay, then both sides get ready, 3 to 2. Look at the punch." Tianyu's countdown hadn't ended yet, but No 001 from the first company suddenly rushed forward and punched No 001 from the fifth company in the face. With this punch, he had no intention of holding back at all, and he used all his strength. No 001 of the fifth company was immediately stunned and fell directly to the ground. He was dazed and seemed unable to stand up at all for a while. "What's going on? You're not playing by the rules. The countdown isn't over yet. Why did you take action in advance? What's going on with you, first company? Are you acting like a rogue?" This scene caused the fifth company to collectively explode, accusing the first company one after another, and some even wanted to go forward and fight in a group. Instead, the first company showed an indifferent attitude and allowed them to accuse them. The person who answered was Referee Tianyu. "Quiet. Do you still remember the rules I said before? As long as you don't kill anyone, you can use any dirty tricks. This is an arena competition, and there can be someone like me. Referee, if it were on the battlefield, would you have to wait for the opponent's signal to fire before firing?" This. The fifth company was collectively dumbfounded, not to mention how aggrieved they were. Rather than saying that the referee favors the first company, it is better to say that the referee's position in this arena is simply dispensable. "Stand up, 001, punch me back." After feeling aggrieved for a while, the fifth instructor finally shouted. Hearing the instructor's voice, No 001 finally woke up. He shook his head and tried to regain consciousness. At the same time, he seemed to be worried that the referee would start counting down, and stood up unsteadily. However, No 001 of the first company was not idle. He rushed forward and kicked No 001 of the fifth company in the corner of the mouth, as if he would take advantage of your illness to kill you. As for No 001 of the fifth company, he fell down again before he could stand firmly. The entire fifth company was gritting their teeth and wished they could go on the field and teach the opponent a lesson. 10, 9, 8, 7. This time, referee Tianyu showed no mercy and started counting down. However, the fifth company 001 was not so fragile. When Tianyu counted to 5, he had already stood up unsteadily. The first company 001's attack was still so dark, and they wanted to go up and make up for it, but the fifth company 001 suddenly grabbed his ankle, threw him over, and then kicked him on the side of the knee. He couldn't help but stumble. Taking advantage of this opportunity, fifth company 001 finally recovered and quickly distanced itself from its opponent. Good. The fifth company started to cheer, but Wang Ling discovered that No 001 had been hit hard twice in a row, and his body was shaking slightly. Bad luck. The enemy 001 stood up, rubbed his knees, spat, and then stood up as if nothing happened. After a brief confrontation, he shouted, and the two sides collided directly. It was really obvious that they had a grudge against each other. The two armies were punching each other, almost to the flesh, without holding back any hand. However, it is exactly what the fifth company feared. When it comes to fighting alone, the first company is indeed stronger. In addition, the fifth company 001 was tricked twice in advance and was not in good condition at all. The result was always being defeated. Pressing and beating. After fighting for more than a minute, No 001 of the fifth company had multiple scars on his body and some bruises on his face. On the other hand, the first company was still in full swing, with no injuries visible at all. The contrast was very obvious. Humph, get off the stage. At this point in the fight, 001 from the first company lost his patience, and kicked 001 from the fifth company in the stomach. The fifth company 001 knew that he couldn't fight at all, so he simply didn't defend himself. However, with this kick, he bent forward hard and punched the opponent hard on the corner of the mouth. After a stagger, he flew backwards and finally rolled off the ring. After falling under the ring, other comrades quickly stepped forward to help No 001 up. Although his nose was bruised and his face was swollen, 001 smiled proudly. "Instructor, I hit this punch." "Well done," the fifth instructor encouraged. Afterwards, Tianyu quickly announced the result. In the first round, the first company won. The fifth company, No 002, comes on. Tch, why bother? However, No 001 of the first company was not happy. He took a step forward and started provoking. "Number 101, do you dare to come up and fight?" Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 34. Me? Why did it come to me directly instead of following the order? Wang Ling pointed to his nose when he heard the provocation. On the surface, he looked a little silly and cute. The fifth company was also in some commotion as a whole, and they started to accuse each other. "Who the hum are you? You can fight whoever you want. Did you make these rules? You can choose whoever you want. Why is your face so big? Not to mention the sneak attack, you are still here slapping your face to look fat. Fight me if you dare." Although Wang Ling performed well in the second session, his appearance when he collapsed from running still remained in the hearts of these comrades. They subconsciously thought that Wang Ling could not beat the opponent at all. The first company was picking up persimmons. "Can you not be angry if you pinch it softly?" On the ring, No 001 of the first company seemed a little impatient with these accusations. He clasped his ears and shouted, "I'm so annoyed, I'm so annoying. Number 101, let me ask you, are you still a man? Do you dare to come up and fight?" Under the ring, the first instructor was now crossing his arms with a proud smile on his face. This tactic was arranged by him in advance. This battlefield veteran had a very accurate grasp of the psychology of the fifth company. After the second round of the competition, he knew that Wang Ling had now vaguely become the backbone of the fifth company. As long as if Wang Ling is defeated in advance, the morale of the fifth company will inevitably be greatly affected, and it will be easier for them to win by then. Even if Wang Ling refuses, it doesn't matter. At that time, their entire company will forcibly label Wang Ling as a coward, which will directly cover up Wang Ling's glory yesterday, and will also affect the entire fifth company. His intentions are not unscrupulous. As for failure, he never thought about it. After all, Wang Ling's poor physical condition was well known in the entire military camp. Everyone in the fifth company was a little angry, while the fifth instructor gave Wang Ling a suspicious look. He had seen the competition between Wang Ling and number 102 yesterday, and he was not sure about Wang Ling's current strength. Wang Ling, on the other hand, glanced at No 001 on the ring, waved his hand backwards to silence the complaints of other comrades, and smiled. "Don't worry, he wants to fight, so just accompany him. I thought I would be able to attack you later. I didn't expect to find trouble so quickly." For some reason, When the fifth instructor saw Wang Ling's current expression, he felt inexplicably confident in his heart, and simply didn't stop him. "Okay, be careful. Hold head high." Wang Ling responded and jumped onto the ring. After yesterday's battle, Wang Ling is now well known in the entire barracks. After he came on stage, everyone's eyes were focused on him. Some were confused, some were sympathetic, and few were optimistic. After Wang Ling was in place, referee Tian Yu asked, "I won't go into details about the rules, you guys. Look at the punch." This time, before the referee even counted down, Wang Ling had already taken action in advance, and very quickly, punching No 001 of the first company in the stomach. Wang Ling didn't hold back much with this punch, causing No 001 to bend over in an exaggerated manner, with his face contorted in pain. But it wasn't over yet. Wang Ling's attack was much darker than that of No 001. Before No 001 could recover, he turned sideways and grabbed No 001's collar, and punched him in the face with a fierce punch. This punch was even more ferocious than the previous one. Half of No 001's teeth were knocked out, and he hit the ring in a daze, gradually losing consciousness. "Sneak attack, you are a sneak attack. 101, you are playing dirty tricks. Do you dare to fight openly? Members of the fifth company, can you only do sneak attacks?" This time, it was the turn of the first company to stir up trouble. They rioted and accused Wang Ling one after another. Not to be outdone, the fifth company started to curse, "You still have the nerve to talk about a sneak attack? How did you sneak attack us last time? You are only allowed to make sneak attacks, but we are not allowed to do this. How can you be so overbearing? I think you guys are just too big-faced to deserve a beating." While his comrades were scolding each other, Wang Ling waved his hands on the ring, interrupted them, and began to preach on behalf of the referee. "Why do you want to sneak attack? On the battlefield, the enemy has to wait until you are ready. Will I give you more bullets? You." The first company is now mute and unable to express its suffering. The same experience has happened to them, and they can't stand it anymore. As for referee Tian Yu, this rule was set by him. Naturally, he didn't criticize anything. He lowered his body and looked at No 001 of the first company. After a while, he stood up and said, "I'm unconscious. This round is the fifth company win. Good. Haha, so happy." The fifth company cheered immediately, but the first company gritted their teeth with hatred. After the two mobilized soldiers carried No 001 off the ring, No 002 jumped on without waiting for the referee and instructor to urge them. Referee Tian Yu saw him and was about to say something as usual, but No 002 directly ignored the referee and jumped towards Wang Ling, trying to seize the opportunity as before. But Wang Ling had already been prepared. He turned around and kicked out with a roundhouse kick, hitting No 002 in the mouth with a very graceful movement. After being hit by this kick, No 002 was immediately stunned, fell from the air, covered his mouth and started wailing. When referee Tian Yu saw this scene, he squatted down and wanted to count down, but Wang Ling suddenly kicked No 002 in the stomach again, sending him flying more than 4 meters. After 2 weeks of tumbling, he rolled away smoothly. "Get off the ring." Falling down in the audience, No 002 curled up like a shrimp, clutching his stomach, and could not even make a wailing sound. Wang Ling's kick was too hard. Wow! The appearance of the scene caused an uproar in the entire training ground. If the battle with No 001 was a sneak attack, then this one was a real battle. The opponent couldn't hold on for even 5 seconds before he was kicked off the ring by Wang Ling. It looked like he had been there for a while. There is no fighting power inside at all. There were all soldiers who had received military training. Of course they could see how fierce the last kick was. To be fair, If they were on the field, they might not be able to kick such a fierce kick, but in the end, they showed up. On the body of a man who is known as the worst in the entire army. Moreover, with this battle, some people also recalled the previous one. At first, they thought that Wang Ling won with a sneak attack, but now think about it, 2 punches killed a soldier who had gone through long-term military training. Being knocked unconscious and losing half of his teeth seems to be no simple matter. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 35. Is this really number 101? So strong. When did he become so strong? Easily defeated 2 opponents from the first company. Isn't number 101 too strong? Wang Ling's strengthening agent was injected just last night. Even the comrades in the 5th company were not aware of the sudden enhancement of his physical fitness. Now that they saw Wang Ling's explosion, everyone was a little confused. After being stunned for a while, they started cheering again under the leadership of someone unknown. With Wang Ling's outburst, it's not certain who will win in this stage of the arena competition. Correspondingly, the faces of the first company were all ugly. I originally thought that by suppressing Wang Ling, I could dampen the morale of the 5th company, but I didn't expect that Wang Ling was hiding so deeply. In the end, they couldn't keep it off their faces. In the ring, Wang Ling lost 2 people in a row, but he still didn't look red and was out of breath. Beside him, referee Tianyu looked at the painful look of No 002 struggling in the stands, and couldn't help but twitching the corner of his mouth. Did you strike too hard? Wang Ling was somewhat disapproving. I can be more ruthless, but I'm just afraid of killing people. Besides, I'm standing here. Didn't they come here because of provocation? Do you blame me for being too harsh? Referee Tianyu was helpless against Wang Ling's absurd reasoning. After all, according to his rules, Wang Ling did not violate the rules. Subsequently, No 003 from the first company also jumped onto the ring. Having learned the lesson from the previous game, he did not attack Wang Ling rashly. Instead, he deliberately distanced himself from Wang Ling and started to observe the situation. Referee Tianyu simply didn't talk nonsense anymore and stood aside, silent, and his small presence was a bit pitiful. According to the practice of the previous games, the competition for this game has already begun from the moment No 003 stepped onto the ring. He didn't want to take action in advance, but Wang Ling didn't want to wait for him. He assumed a military marching stance and slowly approached step by step. No 003 was also a little angry and didn't want to be suppressed by Wang Ling. At this time, he simply shouted and wanted to hit Wang Ling when he took a step, but Wang Ling turned around and launched a roundhouse kick. This No 003's reaction was not slow. Knowing the power of Wang Ling's kick, he did not dare to push it too hard, so he quickly used his arms to block his head. However, in the end, he still underestimated Wang Ling. Even with both arms, he couldn't block this kick. As a result, he was kicked to the head through both arms and fell to the ring on the spot. Without waiting for the referee to count down, Wang Ling leaned forward again, raised his right foot, and stepped on No 003's head. According to the strength of his previous kick, this kick really hit the mark. No 003 would definitely die. Stop. Stop it. Knowing this situation, referee Tianyu and the first instructor almost spoke to stop it at the same time. Wang Ling did not lose his mind after all. This kick stopped about 10 centimeters away from the head of No 003. After slowly putting it on the ring, he said, if it were on the battlefield, there would be no such thing. If someone calls you stop, you should be dead by now. No 003 was already stunned by the kick, but when he heard Wang Ling's words, he felt even more angry. But he had to admit that he had lost this match. He could only groan, stood up in a daze, and walked off the ring. Wang Ling's third game was another instant kill. This achievement made everyone present feel sighs and surprises again. When they looked at Wang Ling, they gradually put away the little glimpse they had before, and then gradually it turned into anticipation. Naturally, there was another burst of cheers and shouts from the fifth company. But at the front of the team, the fifth instructor asked number 102 alone, "Was he sparring with you before?" "Instructor, it's me," number 102 answered truthfully. The fifth instructor asked again, "How can his spinning kick be so powerful?" Number 102 smiled bitterly, "Instructor, I don't know about this. I just feel that number 101 is getting stronger and stronger, but he was not so strong yesterday. After not seeing him all night, he seems to have suddenly exploded. Is this so?" At this time, number 102 suddenly thought of something and asked with a sinister smile, "Instructor, if this kick hits you, can you block it?" The instructor was stunned for a moment, and then immediately scolded him sternly and restrainedly, "Don't ask questions that you shouldn't ask." "Yes." In the ring, Wang Ling watched No 003 step off the stage, and then started provoking again, "Who is next?" Hateful. The first company was a little angry when they saw his arrogant attitude, and No 004 immediately jumped onto the ring. Compared to the previous person, this No 004 was obviously more impatient. He protected his head and rushed towards Wang Ling with his body lowered. He skipped all the steps of confrontation and hugged Wang Ling in a hurry. Ling's waist was lifted up hard. But Wang Ling didn't care. He slapped No 004 on the back, shaking him so much that his whole body was wailing, but he still hugged Wang Ling and refused to let go. Wang Ling was also a little impatient, so he simply clamped No 004's head with his arms, lifted No 004 up, and then fell heavily on the ring. The bang sound made everyone present feel a little nervous. Heart fluttering. This time, Wang Ling didn't use any cruel tactics. He didn't kick No 004 off the ring. He just picked up his clothes and threw him from the center of the ring. On the other hand, the current No 004, who was thrown like that before, is now bleeding from the corner of his mouth, lying under the ring panting, and for a while it seems that he cannot stand up at all. In the fourth game, Wang Ling still won. 4 consecutive battles and 4 consecutive wins made everyone in the fifth company happy, but the first company was getting more and more angry. No 005 rushed onto the ring without waiting for Wang Ling's provocation. Without saying a word, the fight started. However, the result was the same as the previous ones. They quickly lost and were thrown off the ring by Wang Ling. The arena match is still going on. Wang Ling is like the overlord in the arena. He insists on not letting up on Qing Shan. He stands on it and lets the first company fight without losing. As for referee Tian Yu, standing on the ring was a little idle. After the airport battle, he jumped off the ring and stood next to Captain Ling Fei. Captain Ling Fei was watching the game with great interest. After Tian Yu arrived, he smiled and asked, "Number 101 of the fifth company is very strong." Tian Yu did not deny it. "Yeah, he doesn't have the strength that a new recruit should have at all. I estimate that among the instructors present, very few, or no one at all, can beat him in terms of boxing and kicking skills." "Oh," Captain Ling Fei glanced at him with interest, "you think of him so highly? It's surprising. Then who do you think is stronger, me or him?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 36. Tian Yu laughed and replied, "Sir, you are already an elite captain, but number 101 has not even left the barracks. He is just a new recruit. How can he be your opponent? Besides, even if you give him a chance to follow if you fight alone, even if you give him the courage, he won't dare to take action." This answer made Captain Ling Fei even laugh, but after laughing, he pretended to scold him and said, "When did you learn to flatter me like this?" Tian Yu shrugged his shoulders, "It's just the truth." After all, Corporal Tian Yu didn't lie, he just said it too carefully. How can a captain and a new recruit be compared? It was just as he said. Even if Captain Ling Fei stood in front of Wang Ling couldn't make a move. However, for other recruits, it was completely different. Wang Ling really had no scruples about taking action. While the two of them were talking, Wang Ling had already chosen No. 023 of the first company. The movements of No. 023 were quite flexible. He walked around the ring and refused to get close to Wang Ling, but Wang Ling was always staring at him, just like a hungry wolf staring at his prey. Finally, No. 023 couldn't wait any longer, and with a groan, he attacked Wang Ling from one side. But Wang Ling also moved accordingly. He lowered his body and flew up with a kick, hitting No. 023 on the chin. The huge kick force directly kicked No. 023 up to a certain height. Before he landed, Wang Ling suddenly turned 360 degrees and threw a kick in the air, kicking No. 023 off the ring like a ball. Good. There were shouts from the fifth company immediately, while the first company was so anxious that they gritted their teeth. After staring for a while, No. 024 then boarded the ring. Captain Ling Fei saw all these movements and asked with great interest, "Is this a move from Zhengzhenkan? It looks very gorgeous, but I seem to have never seen it before." Deputy Tian Yu then replied, "It's quite gorgeous, but a bit flashy, and there is indeed no such move in Zhengzhenkan. I guess it was created by number 101 himself." "You came up with it yourself? Well, you're quite a talent." Captain Ling Fei nodded and showed his appreciation for Wang Ling without hesitation. Not only him, but also the fifth instructor was a little surprised, subconsciously thinking that Wang Ling was creating his own moves. But in fact, they did think highly of Wang Ling. This kid was simply copying real-life movies and TV series. With his strengthened body and a period of practice, he could perform this smoothly. While they were talking, on the ring, Wang Ling had already hammered down a soldier from the first company and threw him off the ring. Now, it can be said that the first company's idea of using Wang Ling to suppress the morale of the fifth company has been completely broken. Not only that, Wang Ling's sudden outburst even made it impossible for them to go down the stairs. One person was stunned to challenge many of them, completely disrupting the balance of the two companies. This situation made the first instructor's face turn yellow with anger. He simply ignored his face and gave an order to the remaining soldiers, "Hurry, connect, don't give him a chance to rest. I don't believe it, he has so much physical energy, so let me use up his physical energy first." To be honest, the soldiers of the first company were a little reluctant in their hearts, but when the worst in the army they said was showing off on the stage, they couldn't help but grit their teeth and complied. The follow-up staff was a one after another came on, one failed, and the other immediately came on, leaving Wang Ling with no time to rest. But the result was very painful for them. No. 030, defeated. No. 031, defeated. No. 040, defeated. No. 041, defeated. This Wang Ling seemed to be an overlord, dominating the ring, challenging one person to the next, and his behavior was almost overbearing. And every time he picked someone up, there would be waves of exclamations from below. In the end, the sounds started to come one after another, and it felt like it was never ending. After watching for so long, Captain Ling Fei was a little amazed. Why was this kind of person called the worst in the army before? How come I don't care about him at all? Tian Yu replied with a smile, "Sir, you don't know something." The physical fitness of number 101 was indeed poor at the time. He started to gasp for breath after only a few hundred meters of long-distance running. He started to fall after running less than a kilometer. At that time, the most powerful person in the entire army. The title Cha really suits him. Oh, Captain Ling Fei was quite interested in Wang Ling and asked, then why is he so strong now? Tian Yu shook his head and said, I don't know that either. I don't know what kind of special training that guy Lao Wu gave him. But I heard that when he was training for long-distance running, the others were 3 kilometers long, but Lao Wu punished number 101 for running alone. After 5 kilometers, number 101 began to collapse on the first lap, and later on he ran in confusion. In the end, he just managed to finish the full 6 kilometers, and he was so exhausted that he almost fell unconscious. Interesting. It's not entirely unreasonable for this kind of resilience and perseverance to be as strong as it is today. Captain Ling Fei looked at Wang Ling, who was continuing to fight in the ring, and smiled. The so-called heroes emerge from troubled times. He was born during the war for hegemony between the coalition forces and the allied forces. Maybe this kid can achieve something, but staying in the barracks all the time is a derogation of his talents. Oda. Why? After the two companies have finished fighting and the little devil has recovered a little, call him to come to me. Yes. In the ring, Wang Ling had no idea or cared whether he had been commented on for a long time. Now he was still fighting fiercely with the first company. It has to be said that the first company's practice of continuous battles was indeed shameless, as it did not give Wang Ling any time to rest. However, Wang Ling here refreshed their cognitive outlook time and time again, as if he had endless physical energy, challenging all the people on the stage one after another. No 070, defeated. No 071, defeated. No 072, still defeated. After defeating so many opponents in a row, at the beginning, the surrounding spectators were still screaming and making an uproar. But later, the surprise gradually escalated, and now they are numb. Except for the impatient first company, almost no one in the audience said anything. No one made any noise, but they were all watching the game intently, muttering in their hearts when Wang Ling would fail. Until No 090 came on the stage, Wang Ling suddenly staggered while charging. The whole audience widened their eyes in shock, subconsciously thinking that Wang Ling was going to be defeated. But in the end, Wang Ling straightened his body after shaking for a while, and knocked No 090 off the ring with 3 punches and 2 kicks. In the ensuing battle, Wang Ling's aura gradually became a little disordered, but his punches were still fierce, and he defeated 7 people in a row under the surprised eyes of many people. However, when No 098 came on the stage, Wang Ling planned to fight quickly as before, but during the charge, Wang Ling suddenly felt an exaggeration in his body, making him almost unsteady. Snort. No 098 saw the scene and seized the opportunity. He stepped forward and punched Wang Ling twice on the left and right. Then he kicked Wang Ling back 5 or 6 steps with a flying kick. Then his feet went limp and he lay down directly on the ring. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 37. Wow! Wang Ling's fall seemed to shake the entire military camp, and bursts of uproar could be heard throughout the training ground. Although they knew that Wang Ling should have been unable to hold on for so many consecutive battles, they had gradually become accustomed to Wang Ling's strength before, and this sudden reversal made them unable to accept it for a while. On the edge of the field, those in the 5th company were sweating for Wang Ling. Until now, Wang Ling had given enough effort. Even if he lay down like this and never stood up again, they wouldn't be surprised. Has this number 101 finally reached its limit? Captain Ling Fei also narrowed his eyes and looked at Wang Ling. Deputy Tian Yu answered simply, that's almost it. After fighting so many times in a row, number 101 has become a bit inhuman. It's normal that he can't hold on. Captain Ling Fei nodded silently after hearing this, then stopped talking and just stared at Wang Ling intently. Beautiful. Hurry up, go up and give him another kick, and kick him down. Unlike the others, the first company was excited. After being suppressed by Wang Ling alone for so long, how could they not be excited when they finally saw Wang Ling fall? It seemed that he was also worried that Wang Ling would recover. After hearing the urging, No 098 did not dare to delay at all, and hurriedly stepped forward to kick Wang Ling off the ring. But just as he kicked, Wang Ling suddenly grabbed his ankle in mid-air, pulled him forward, disrupted his balance, and then suddenly kicked No 098 in the chest. Although Wang Ling was beginning to weaken now, the so-called lean camel was bigger than a horse, but the kick was still fierce. No 098 was kicked 2 meters away and fell to the floor. He coughed violently for a while before he slowly got up. Body. Taking advantage of this time, Wang Ling also stood up tremblingly. Just as everyone else present thought, Wang Ling had been fighting continuously for so long and was close to exhausted physically. But he himself was still a little dissatisfied, and he started to complain in his head, "Uncle Hey, what's going on? Didn't I get a booster injection? Why did I run out of energy so quickly?" Uncle Hey has always been observing the changes in the red alert world. When he heard the complaints, he immediately sneered, "Boy, you are so good when you get an advantage. Fighting consumes no less physical energy than running. You have fought more than 90 times in a row. Who can a normal person do it?" Wang Ling was still unconvinced, but the exhaustion of physical energy was too sudden, right? There wasn't much buffering time at all. "Is this what normal physical exertion is like?" Uncle Hay replied, "Yes, after using enhancers, there will be disadvantages in this regard. This enhancer changes the tissues in your body, will squeeze your potential, and express all your physical energy explosively, so you won't feel too tired even after fighting so many battles. However, once your potential is exhausted, the explosion will also end, and your body will naturally float down immediately." "Damn it, it can still be like this? Uncle Hay, why didn't you tell me in advance that the enhancer had such side effects?" Wang Ling felt a little bitter in his heart. But Uncle Hay disagreed. "Side effects? There's no such thing as that. It's just a normal manifestation of the enhancer. You kid, stop being so blaming. Without the enhancer, could you win so many games in a row? You shine brightly today. It's already strong enough, and it's enough to reach this point." "No, not yet," Wang Ling shouted in his head. Coincidentally, at this time, No 098 of the first company also stood up, wiped the blood seeping from the corner of his mouth, and ran towards Wang Ling again, punching, elbowing, and knee-bumping with tricky moves. As for Wang Ling's current physical condition, it can be said that it is already very bad. He was hit one after another, and his face was distorted in pain. After succeeding one after another, No 098 also gained confidence. He grabbed Wang Ling's dangling shoulders, jumped up and tried to kick Wang Ling off the ring. But Wang Ling made a move at this time, bending down in an exaggerated manner to avoid the kick, and then swung his leg back, sweeping No 098 2 meters away. After No 098 fell, Wang Ling explained in his mind, "My target is No 099. We are almost there, so we can't give up. The rest of the first company is no exception, but this is the only one. I must beat him down with my own hands." After all, Wang Ling was also holding grudges. No 099 of the first company relied on his identity as the first company to insult him unceremoniously, and even started to fight, causing conflicts between the two companies. If Wang Ling had no strength before, he would have had no choice but to endure this kind of revenge, but now, Wang Ling has to take revenge no matter what. After being together for so long, Uncle Hay had long understood Wang Ling's stubbornness and knew that there was no way he could be persuaded, so he simply sighed and stopped talking. Although Wang Ling is weak now, his body has been strengthened after all. It is difficult for ordinary people to bear the sudden burst of power. After No 098 fell to the ground, he gritted his teeth and struggled for 5 or 6 seconds before standing up. However, Wang Ling held up his weak body, stepped forward and kicked No. 098 directly to the edge of the ring, only half a step away. Mi is about to fall off the ring. Although No. 098 felt uncomfortable, he had not lost his combat effectiveness after all. He could still get up if given some time. But on the side, No. 099 did not want to give Wang Ling any chance to rest at all, and quickly shouted, "No. 098 admits defeat, next time one for me." After saying that, he didn't even care whether No. 098 agreed or not, and directly dragged No. 098 off the ring. Instead, he jumped up, approached Wang Ling quickly, and hit Wang Ling's stomach with a knee. Wang Ling was already weak now, and after being hit so hard again, he immediately opened his mouth in exaggerated pain. But No. 099's attack was much darker than Wang Ling's. Before Wang Ling could react, he punched the corner of Wang Ling's mouth with one punch, and another punch at a more cunning and vicious angle, hitting Wang Ling's temple with one punch. After receiving such vicious blows one after another, Wang Ling seemed to be stunned. His head was buzzing, and his body took a few steps along with his head. Finally, he fell to the ring again with a bang. "Superior. What's wrong with you? Why are you so vicious? Where are you going to hit? Someone might be killed there. Referee, he violated the rules. He violated the rules. He wanted to kill someone." The soldiers of the Fifth Company were immediately furious. Seeing the viciousness of No. 099, they all criticized him. However, the First Company was completely indifferent. They knew they were in the wrong and simply didn't answer anything at all. The surrounding soldiers also frowned, but surprisingly no one spoke. "Xiao Tian, is this 099 from the First Company too shady?" Captain Ling Fei also asked. Adjutant Tian Yu smiled bitterly and said, "Yes, it's too cruel. However, based on his performance before 101, these punches should not be able to kill him. As long as he is not killed, it is not a violation." Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 38. As long as you don't kill him, it doesn't count as a violation? Isn't this rule too cruel? Captain Ling Fei frowned. Tian Yu shook his head and replied, "Sir, it is not like the peaceful times. What they are about to face is a war. The battlefield is much more cruel than here. Since there is a competition, it must be more cruel." Captain Ling Fei nodded, looked at Wang Ling on the stage, turned his head and asked, "Do you think number 101 can hold on this time?" Tian Yu smiled bitterly again, "Sir, this question really stumps me. I thought number 101 had reached the limit in the last game, but No. 098 still lost to him. This time, who knows whether he will be able to. What kind of miracle can you create?" After saying that, Tian Yu remembered his position as a referee. He was about to go on stage to count down, but Captain Ling Fei stopped him. "There is no need to count down yet." No. 099 took advantage of the rules. This time, treat it as his punishment. "Give it to No. 101. Put some water in it." "Yes, sir." Number 101, kid, Wang Ling, stand up. Under the ring, the Fifth Company saw that the referee was doing nothing and simply didn't bother to protest anymore. The fifth instructor slapped the ring and shouted at Wang Ling, "A bastard like him, are you willing to lose to him? Stand up, just like before, hit him with 3 punches and 2 kicks. 101, stand up. Come on." Influenced by the instructor, other members of the Fifth Company also started shouting. Like Wang Ling, the Fifth Company also disliked No. 099. They also took advantage of Wang Ling's weakness to kill Wang Ling, which made them very angry. From the bottom of their hearts, they did not want Wang Ling to lose to such a person. The first company seemed to have been awakened by these shouts. They simply lost all shame and hurriedly urged, "Hurry up 099, go and add a few more kicks to defeat him completely. Throw him down quickly and don't let him stand up again. Hurry up, why are you still hanging around?" Most of those shouting and urging were soldiers who had not yet entered the battlefield. As for those who were knocked off the ring by Wang Ling before, most of them have remained silent now. Listening to these shouts, their faces are burning with pain. However, no 099 did nothing. He just maintained a military marching stance and looked at Wang Ling from a distance. It's not so much that he doesn't want to take advantage of others, but rather that he doesn't dare. After all, no 098 has done this before, only to be temporarily kicked away by Wang Ling. He doesn't want to follow in no 098's footsteps. As for Wang Ling, his current condition is really bad. There is a severe feeling of weakness all over his body, just like the state he was in when he ran 1 kilometer in the physical fitness test, almost collapse. However, he had been hit hard by no 099 one after another before, and now his brain was a little groggy, and he seemed to be in a semi-conscious state. If no 099 came to make a last-ditch attack at this time, Wang Ling would definitely not have the ability to resist, but he didn't dare. This also gave Wang Ling some buffering time. During this period, it seemed that this feeling of weakness was too familiar. Wang Ling subconsciously recalled the times of collapse in the past, such as the results of the physical fitness test, such as the 6 kilometers and so on. The accumulation of these negative emotions, coupled with the current physical condition, Wang Ling even had the idea of giving up. But, "Stand up, kid, are you willing to lose to him? Come on, 101, don't lose to this ruffian. Come on, stand up." Just when Wang Ling was about to fall into a coma, he suddenly heard the calls of his instructors and comrades. He couldn't help but recall the scene when he was insulted and beaten by no 099, and a surge of anger immediately rose in his heart. He forced himself to open his eyes again. Hoo-hoo. Wang Ling now clearly looked like he was at the end of his strength, and his breathing was trembling. But he just stood up with such a bad body, gradually supporting himself, and slowly trying to stand up. "Still want to stand up? Get out." However, no 099, who had been vigilant all the time, was not happy anymore. He stepped forward and kicked Wang Ling over, like a cat playing with a mouse. Wang Ling gritted his teeth in anger, and with the support of that anger, he helped him up again with difficulty. Seeing Wang Ling like this, no 099 seemed to have already secured the victory, and he insulted him unceremoniously, "What's the point of you still standing up? The worst in the whole army is the worst in the whole army, and you can never turn around. God, it's really eye-opening, I was the one who beat you down in the first place, and now you've given me this opportunity again." While he was talking, Wang Ling stood up tremblingly, with a fierce look in his eyes that made no 099's heart tremble. "If I am the worst in the army, then who do you think you are? What do those first companies that I defeated count?" Wang Ling stared at no 099 and confided with difficulty. This sentence was very short, but every word uttered seemed to shake the entire training ground. Almost everyone present heard it. Seeing Wang Ling's persistence now, everyone was amazed for a moment. But no 099 seemed a little crazy. "Shut up. What are you doing standing up? Wouldn't it be nice if you let me knock you down? If you stand up again, won't you have to get beaten? In this state, you still want to make a comeback." As he spoke, no 099 clenched his fist and punched Wang Ling. In Wang Ling's current condition, there was no way he could dodge these punches. As a result, 3 consecutive punches hit him in the face. The last move, Shenlong Fist, hit his chin, causing Wang Ling's entire body to tremble. They all raised back exaggeratedly. Wang Ling's steps were frivolous now, but he refused to fall to the ground again. He continued to fall backwards and pushed to the edge of the ring. He suddenly stopped when he was about to fall. "Get out of here," No 099 didn't give up yet. He rushed forward and wanted to make up for Wang Ling's kick. But when he approached Wang Ling, before he could make a move, Wang Ling suddenly regained his composure and pushed his head forward, hitting No 099 on the bridge of his nose. Took a few steps back, and his eyes seemed to go dark. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang Ling stepped forward in vain. After approaching No 099, he punched No 099 again, causing No 099 to stagger exaggeratedly and almost fall to the ground. Originally he had a chance of winning, but suddenly he became so embarrassed. No 099 was also a little angry, so he turned around and hit Wang Ling with another punch. But Wang Ling was like a roly-poly, shaking violently, but refused to fall down, and instead punched 099 in the corner of the mouth. No 099 was not convinced. He gritted his teeth and punched Wang Ling again. Wang Ling got closer and punched back again. Just like that, these two people were punching each other, as if they were in a round match, with constant exchanges. Under the stage, everyone in the training ground almost held their breath, watching the duel between the two men with concentration, not daring to take a breath, as if they were afraid of disturbing the rhythm. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 39. Although Wang Ling was exhausted, he suffered from high-frequency collapse, whether after the physical fitness test or in the days when he first entered the world of Red Alert. It can be said that he has become somewhat accustomed to this state. Even if he is in vain, he can still wave continuously. A fierce fist. Apart from anything else, with this tenacity alone, there are very few people in the entire barracks who can beat him. As for No 099, it could be said that he was in full condition, but Wang Ling's body was strengthened after all, and the fists he swung after being weak were still heavy. After such a continuous beating, the injuries on No 099's face were actually worse than Wang Ling's. Heavy, the whole person felt top-heavy, just mechanically waving his fists to fight with Wang Ling. After fighting for a long time, No 099 finally fell on the ring with Wang Ling's last punch. Judging from his current state, he seems to be feeling a little drowsy. He wants to get up, but he can't support his current body. Seeing this scene, Captain Ling Fei whistled, looking very proud, and said to Deputy Tianyu on the side, "How long do you want to watch the excitement?" Tianyu smiled ashamedly. Although his presence was very small, he was still a referee. He immediately jumped onto the ring, lowered his body and started the countdown, 10, 9, 8. In Wang Ling's previous battle, there was no need for him to count down, but now Wang Ling has almost reached his limit. He is swaying on the ring and has difficulty standing still. He has no remaining strength to interrupt him. 5, 4, 3. Tianyu was not polite, and the countdown continued. At this point, everyone in the fifth company became a little excited, shouting in unison, 3, 2, 1. Win. Well done, 101. Ugh. So cool. Tianyu felt embarrassed again. The countdown was suppressed, and even the announcement of the result was completely blocked by the fifth company. In the end, he could only shake his head helplessly. Not only the fifth company watched Wang Ling's outbreak and conclusion throughout the whole process, but now many officers and soldiers on the training ground also became excited and followed and shouted together. As for Wang Ling, it can be said that he used his tenacity to exhaust No 099. After hearing these shouts, he finally couldn't help but laugh. I win, I win. After laughing, Wang Ling finally lost the motivation to hold on and lay straight back. At this time, referee Tian Yu finally had some sense of presence, and hurriedly stepped forward to hold Wang Ling, slowly put him down, checked the situation, and then stood up and announced, "Number 101 of the fifth company has reached the limit. I can no longer compete." With Wang Ling's condition, he had almost reached his limit in the last game, and his strength so far has exceeded everyone's expectations. The record of 99 consecutive victories is unique even in the history of the entire barracks. This record may be regarded as a legend and be passed down forever. When the people of the fifth company heard the news, they were not dissatisfied at all. They hurried forward and took Wang Ling down. The fifth instructor knelt down and shook Wang Ling's hand, looking a little excited. "Kid, you did a great job. I'm so glad I kept you. I didn't expect you to give me such a big gift." Wang Ling was completely exhausted, but he was still unconscious. At this time, he could only squeeze out 4 words, "Fortunately, I did not disgrace my life." Ha ha ha, that's not all. It's more than completed the task. You don't know how excited we are watching down there. The beating was so painful. The instructor smiled and said nothing, but the other comrades started to chirp. After a brief conversation, the group of people planned to send him to the medical room, but Wang Ling refused to go, saying he wanted to continue watching the game. The others couldn't resist him, so they simply found someone to bring a chair for him to sit on and rest. It's funny to say that in the entire training ground, Wang Ling was the only one sitting on a chair, and even Captain Ling Fei was standing. I'm afraid no one would believe this privilege. After Wang Ling was settled, the competition between the 2 recruit companies continued. The fifth company's morale is now high because of Wang Ling's explosion, and they have an overwhelming advantage in the number of people left. It can be said that they have no worries at all. But the first company was on the contrary. Wang Ling alone defeated 99 people in a row. Now the remaining people are holding back their anger and want to vent it. As a result, in the subsequent battle, the soldiers of the first company were shocked that everyone was able to fight against 2, and they were so fierce that they were in a mess. Last night, the soldiers of the fifth company estimated that 3 people could kill 2 people from the first company, but now it seems that they still underestimated the first company. After watching more than 10 consecutive games and realizing the ferocity of the first company, these soldiers on the training ground better understood Wang Ling's difficulty and strength by comparing them with each other. They looked at Wang Ling for a moment, even more admiration. The game is still going on, and the battle is getting more and more heated. The hatred between the 2 companies is also fully reflected in the follow-up personnel's field. Although Wang Ling's attacks were fierce, the opponents who fell under his hands were only unconscious at worst, and most of them were thrown off the ring. However, in the subsequent battles, some people often broke their arms and legs. The attacks from both sides were really fierce. Even if they are not maimed, both sides will be beaten with bruises and swollen faces after a match. This kind of ferocious fighting style is simply shocking. Captain Ling Fei originally wanted to watch the fun, but after watching it for so long, he frowned. "Xiao Tian, we have seen the outcome of the game, is it almost over? The first company will be going up soon. On the battlefield, so many people are now disabled, isn't this delaying time?" Deputy Tian Yu also had a bitter look on his face. "Sir, I didn't expect that they would be so vicious and that so many people would be maimed in the arena. However, we have already reached this point. If we interrupt temporarily, I'm afraid, neither of them would agree." Captain Ling Fei spread his hands and said, "Okay, I'll leave the judgment to you and I won't have to worry about it." In the ring, the battle between the 2 sides was still fierce, with fists and kicks being exchanged without mercy. On average, one person would have his hands and feet broken after every 5 games. Moreover, the remaining soldiers of the first company are becoming more and more brave, and from time to time a strongman will appear in a 1-on-3 fight. Originally, if this progress was followed, the first company should be a sure winner, but an outlier like Wang Ling happened to be the one who killed 99 of them by himself, leaving the first company with a very limited number of people. As a result, with the last punch of number 102 of the fifth company, the last person of the first company finally fell on the ring. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 40. Come on, is there anyone else from the first company? After defeating the last opponent, number 102 became more motivated and provoked the entire first company, making the entire first company gnash their teeth in anger. At this time, referee Tianyu finally stepped onto the ring again, checked the condition of the last person in the first company, shook his head and said, the winner of this game is the fifth company. Now, everyone in the first company is we have already been on the field and lost all of them, so in this third stage of the competition, the overall winner is the fifth company. Oh. Okay. Well done guys. When the fifth company heard this, they immediately burst into cheers. On the other hand, quite a few people in the first company had bruises and swollen faces, and more than 10 people had their arms, legs and feet broken, and were sent to the treatment room halfway. Now everyone is gnashing their teeth. However, Captain Ling Fei was still adding fuel to the fire. After Tianyu announced the results, he walked up to the stage again, looked around the training ground, and finally summed up, the first part, target shooting, the first company won. The second part, simulated capture the flag exercise, although there were some accidents, in the end it was the fifth company that solved those troubles and won. In the third session, the fifth company completely wiped out the first company at the cost of more than 100 people and won. The score is 2-1, so in the battle and competition between the first company and the fifth company, the winner in the end is the fifth company. Haha, did you hear that? It's us, we won. Finally won. Naturally, the fifth company cheered again, and even Wang Ling couldn't help laughing. Not only them, but other soldiers watching the battle on the training ground also applauded one after another. The fights and conflicts between the two companies had already spread throughout the barracks. However, the faces of the first company were even worse. No 099 was particularly irritable. He broke away from two comrades who were blocking him, stepped onto the ring with grand steps, and shouted, I don't accept it. Fifth, I'm not convinced by the company. This shout, a bit hysterical, instantly suppressed the cheers of the audience. Everyone's eyes were focused on him, some were confused, some were ridiculing. Are you no 099 of the first company? Captain Ling Fei looked him up and down and asked with some fun, tell me, why are you dissatisfied? Captain Ling Fei looked down upon this person. After all, his act of killing Wang Ling during the competition was really embarrassing. But no 099 seemed not to notice, and still continued to provoke, I just don't accept it. You have all seen the subsequent competition. The strength of the two companies is obviously so different. The stronger one is obviously us. If not, they held back too many of us on the 101st, and they couldn't win at all. That's right, if it weren't for number 101, they wouldn't have won. Fifth company, if you have the guts to let number 101 come on the field, I will definitely defeat you. Brothers of the fifth company, can you only rely on one person to support the scene? No 099's provocation seemed to resonate with the entire first company, and many protests were heard immediately. No 099 even shouted in the ring, if it weren't for number 101, I could beat 5 of you by myself. If you have the guts, come and give it a try. In fact, if we really talk about it, their protest was not wrong. The fifth company was able to win because of Wang Ling's outburst, otherwise there would be no chance of winning at all. All the soldiers present also knew this fact, and they couldn't help but murmur. The fifth company was naturally unconvinced, but for a while they couldn't find any suitable words to refute. It was at this time that Wang Ling stood up with the help of his chair, coughed twice, and attracted the attention of everyone around him, and then asked, "Do the 5 people you mentioned include me?" You. No 099 immediately jammed, and even the first company collectively misfired. After witnessing Wang Ling's terror today, they now fear Wang Ling from the bottom of their hearts. But Wang Ling wasn't done yet. He coughed a few more times and slowly climbed up to the ring, facing off against No 099. "You said that the fifth company won because of me. Could it be that I wasn't No 099, are you from the fifth company?" After being injected with the booster, Wang Ling's body's recovery ability was also greatly enhanced. After a period of rest, he was able to do simple activities and communicate normally. "Why would we rather be beaten than challenge you? Have you forgotten how you treated us arrogantly back then?" Wang Ling stared at No 099 and argued sharply, "You are strong, you are arrogant, we have endured this, but now we have lost, how can we be so arrogant? You said that our overall quality is not as good as yours, then why didn't you say that you enlisted earlier than us? According to your thinking, if you relax let's catch up for a month and compete again, can you still talk so easily?" That's right, members of the first company, if you lose, you lose. You guys are so arrogant. First company, can't you afford to lose? Why don't you wait for us to fight again in a month? You are only allowed to hit us, but we are not allowed to fight back. The fifth company finally found a breakthrough and collectively began to counterattack. No 099's face was a little hot when he was told that, but he was very unconvinced in his heart. He was about to continue saying something, but the first instructor suddenly shouted, "Okay, No 099, don't give it, I'm embarrassed, get off." Cut. No 099 had no choice but to leave a look of reluctance and silently walked off the ring. The fifth instructor did not chase and fight, but directly waved down the group of vigorous soldiers, called 2 soldiers, and slowly helped Wang Ling down. The war of words between the 2 companies finally ended here. After Captain Ling Fei watched the play for free, he couldn't help but feel a little happy when he stood on the stage. He looked at both sides and then smiled sarcastically, "It's so interesting that you 2 companies, because of a small conflict, turned into the company's confrontation. But it's not a bad thing to have more actual combat and competition before joining the battlefield." After saying that, Captain Ling Fei turned around and spoke to the first company alone, "Being arrogant with big fists is not a good style. It doesn't matter if you are hit or hit. Let you know that there are people outside the world. There are people here. Of all the companies, you are the closest to the war and the battlefield. If you lose in a competition in the barracks, you will only be injured at most. But if you fail on the battlefield, you will die. Learn this lesson and step up your training. Don't get there. I was so scared that I peed my pants on the battlefield." "Yes," the first instructor responded quickly. Later, Captain Ling Fei targeted the fifth company. More than 10 people from the first company were sent to the treatment room, and there are more of you, nearly 30 people. It's exactly the same as what the first company said, if there weren't 101 no, you can't win, so don't make me proud, seize the time and try to catch up with the pace of the first company.